My name is Amanda, and for as long as I can remember, my sister Sarah was the golden child. She was 3 years younger than me, but somehow she always came first in our parents' eyes. Don't get me wrong, they didn't neglect me entirely. They just preferred her. When I made the debate team, they nodded and smiled. When Sarah joined the cheerleading squad, they threw a party. When I needed new clothes, we went to the outlet mall. When Sarah wanted a new wardrobe, it was a weekend shopping spree at the fancy stores downtown. Dad wasn't much different. Every Saturday, he'd take Sarah to the park, buy her ice cream, and spend hours pushing her on the swings. I'd tag along sometimes, walking a few steps behind them, watching their matching dark hair bounce as they laughed at inside jokes I wasn't part of. Sarah wasn't cruel about it, which almost made it worse. She never rubbed it in my face or tried to make me feel bad. She was just there, soaking up all the attention like a pretty little sponge, while I learned to thrive in the shadows. Our relationship was comfortable. Not close, exactly, but not hostile either. We existed in a careful balance, like two planets orbiting the same sun, never colliding but never quite connecting either. I threw myself into my studies, finding validation in academic achievement that I couldn't get at home. While Sarah was content to coast by on her charm and our parents' indulgence, I worked my ass off. Every A+, every academic award, every teacher's praise, became a brick in the wall I built around my heart. Amanda's so mature for her age, teachers would tell my parents at conferences. Such a dedicated student. My parents would smile politely, then rush home to help Sarah with her homework or console her over some minor social drama. It was just the way things were, and I convinced myself I was okay with it. Looking back now, I should have seen the signs. The way Sarah's smile would tighten when I achieved something she couldn't. The flash of resentment in her eyes when our parents actually paid attention to me. The subtle way she'd redirect conversations to herself whenever I was in the spotlight. But I was too busy trying to prove myself, too focused on being the perfect daughter even if I could never be the favorite one. I thought if I just worked hard enough, achieved enough, maybe one day they'd see me, really see me, for who I was. College was my escape. Finally, a place where hard work actually meant something, where being the responsible one was an asset rather than a consolation prize. I got into state university with a partial scholarship. All those straight A's finally paid off. I threw myself into campus life with the same intensity I'd applied to high school. While other freshmen were struggling to adjust, I was thriving. I joined the business club, made the dean's list, and landed an internship at Preston & Associates, one of the top financial firms in the city. "You're a natural," my supervisor told me during my internship evaluation. "We'd love to have you join us full-time after graduation." I practically floated home that day. For once, everything was falling into place according to my plans, not anyone else's expectations. Meanwhile, Sarah started college 3 years after me. Mom and Dad paid her full tuition, set her up in a fancy apartment near campus, and gave her a monthly allowance that was more than I made at my part-time job. "Your sister needs to focus on the college experience," Dad explained when I pointed out the disparity. "You're different, you actually enjoy studying." He wasn't wrong. While I was building my future, Sarah was building her social media following. Her Instagram was full of party photos and spring break adventures. Every time I visited home, she had a new story about some crazy night out. "You should come party with us sometime," she'd say, knowing full well I was too busy with my internship and studies to join her. After graduation, Preston & Associates made good on their offer. I started as a junior analyst and rented a small but decent apartment downtown. It wasn't much, but it was mine, earned with my own hard work. That's where I met James. He was the financial director, tall, clean-cut, with kind eyes and a quiet confidence that made my heart skip. We started running into each other in the break room, then at company happy hours, and finally, he asked me to dinner. When he proposed 6 months later, I was over the moon. He did it properly, down on one knee at our favorite restaurant, with a ring that must have cost him at least 3 months' salary. I couldn't wait to tell my family. We arranged a dinner at my parents' house, and Sarah, who'd recently graduated and moved back home, would be there too. She'd been working some entry-level marketing job, though from her social media, it seemed like she spent more time at happy hours than at her desk. The dinner started well enough. Mom made her famous pot roast, Dad opened his best wine, and James charmed them all with stories about his work and plans for the future. "Amanda really lucked out with you," Mom gushed, touching James's arm. "Such a responsible young man. They make such a perfect couple," Dad agreed, beaming at us. "When's the wedding?" For once, all the attention was on me, and it felt amazing. James squeezed my hand under the table as my parents peppered us with questions about wedding venues and dates. But across the table, Sarah sat picking at her food, her face growing darker with each passing minute. I caught her staring at my engagement ring, her lips pressed into a thin line. Every time James spoke, she would roll her eyes slightly or shift uncomfortably in her chair. James and I decided not to rush into the wedding. We started looking at venues on weekends, discussing color schemes over dinner, and dreaming about our future together. I'd never been happier. That all changed on a Tuesday evening. I remember it was Tuesday because I'd just finished my weekly video call with my wedding planner. I was still in my work clothes when James knocked on my door. Something was off. He usually texted before coming over, and his face was like a thundercloud. "We need to talk," he said, pushing past me into the apartment. His voice was cold, nothing like the warm, gentle tone I was used to. "What's wrong?" I asked, my stomach already knotting with anxiety. He pulled out his phone and started scrolling. "Care to explain these?" My heart stopped as he showed me photo after photo. There I was, or someone who looked like me, in compromising positions with different men. Screenshots of explicit text conversations filled his screen, all allegedly from me to various guys. "James, that's not. I never." My voice shook as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. "These are fake. I've never cheated on you." "Fake?" He laughed bitterly. "Your own sister sent these to me." "So you're saying Sarah made all this up? Created fake photos and messages just to break us up? Why would she do that?" "I don't know why she'd do this, but James, please, look at my phone." I scrambled to grab it from the coffee table. "Check everything. There's nothing like this on there. I've never cheated on you." "Don't bother," he cut me off, stepping back when I tried to hand him my phone. "I trusted you, Amanda. I thought you were different. But you're just like all the others, a lying, cheating traitor." "James, please," I begged, tears streaming down my face. "You know me. You know I wouldn't do this." But his eyes were cold and distant. "We're done. Don't try to contact me again." The door slammed behind him with a finality that shattered my world. I tried calling him immediately, straight to voicemail. Text messages wouldn't go through. Email bounced back. He'd blocked me everywhere. I collapsed onto my couch, my whole body shaking with sobs. How could this be happening? How could he believe I would cheat on him? And Sarah, my own sister, had done this to me? The hours blurred together as I cried until I had no tears left. My phone kept lighting up with concerned messages from friends and coworkers. Apparently, James had already started spreading the word about my infidelity. After crying myself to sleep, I woke up the next morning with one purpose: confronting Sarah. My hand shook as I dialed her number, half expecting her to ignore the call. But she picked up on the second ring. "Well, if it isn't my cheating sister," she answered, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. "Why did you do it?" My voice cracked. "Why would you fake those photos and messages?" She laughed. Actually laughed. The sound made my blood run cold. "Oh, come on, Amanda. Did you really think I'd let you have your perfect little happily ever after? You, married to a successful, handsome guy like James? Please. What are you talking about? You don't deserve him." Her voice suddenly turned vicious. "You don't deserve any of it. The perfect job, the perfect fiancé. Who do you think you are? I felt like I'd been slapped. Sarah, we're sisters. Sisters? She sneered. Please. You're nothing but second best, Amanda. You always have been, and you always will be. Did you really think you'd get to marry someone like James before me? That's not how this works. In that moment, 25 years of sisterhood shattered. All those memories, the shared rooms, the whispered secrets, the forced smiles at family gatherings, they all took on a different meaning. Every eye roll, every backhanded compliment, every moment of tension suddenly made sense. You've been jealous of me this whole time, I whispered, the realization hitting me like a truck. Jealous? She laughed again. Don't flatter yourself. I'm better than you in every way. I just couldn't stand watching you play house with James when we all know you don't deserve him. I drove to my parents' house that afternoon, desperate for support. Surely they'd believe me. Surely they'd see what Sarah had done. I was wrong. Amanda, honey, Mom said, shaking her head. Why are you trying to blame your sister for your mistakes? But I didn't make any mistakes, I practically shouted. Sarah faked everything. She admitted it to me. Dad crossed his arms. Your sister would never do something like that. Stop trying to shift the blame. If you cheated on James, you need to own up to it. I left their house in a daze. Once again, Sarah was the golden child who could do no wrong, and I was the screw-up who couldn't be trusted. But life wasn't done kicking me while I was down. The next morning, I walked into work only to find my access card denied. Security escorted me to HR, where a sympathetic-looking woman handed me my termination papers. I'm so sorry, she whispered, glancing around to make sure no one could hear. James pushed for immediate termination. He said he couldn't work in the same building as, well. I didn't even finish reading the paperwork. I just signed it, packed up my desk, and left with my head held high, at least until I got to my car, where I broke down completely. 3 days later, my best friend Jenny called. Amanda, I don't know how to tell you this, but Sarah and James are dating. She's been posting pictures of them together all over Instagram. She's saying she's been helping him heal after your betrayal. I hung up without responding and threw my phone across the room. In the span of a week, I'd lost my fiance, my job, my family's trust, and now my sister was dating the man she'd helped me lose. Depression hit me like a ton of bricks. For a month, I barely left my apartment except to buy groceries. Thank God I'd been saving for the wedding, at least I could afford to wallow in my misery without worrying about rent. I spent my days in a fog, alternating between crying and staring blankly at Netflix shows I couldn't focus on. My phone stayed off most of the time. I couldn't bear to see more photos of Sarah and James together, couldn't stomach another well-meaning message from friends asking if I was okay. Then one night, around 3 a.m., I shot up in bed with sudden clarity. The fog lifted, and for the first time in weeks, I could think straight. I didn't want to die, I wanted revenge. Not the petty kind with drunk texts or social media drama. No, I wanted to expose Sarah for who she really was, to make everyone see the snake hiding behind that innocent smile. It was like someone had flipped a switch in my brain. The next morning, I showered for the first time in days, put on my best suit, and started job hunting. Within 2 weeks, I landed a position at Morrison Financial, a bigger firm than Preston and Associates, with better benefits and a corner office. I even started visiting my parents again. I'm doing better now, I'd tell them with a practiced smile. Sometimes things fall apart so better things can come together. They ate it up, relieved to see their older daughter moving on so maturely. I sat through family dinners, nodding politely when Sarah and James would show up hand in hand. He'd avoid looking at me directly, while Sarah would shoot me these little smirks when no one else was watching. James and I are thinking about getting engaged, she announced at one such dinner, watching me carefully for a reaction. I just smiled and asked to pass the potatoes. 2 years passed this way. I built my career, making a name for myself in the industry. I went on a few dates, though nothing serious. And I waited. Patience had always been my strong suit. Then came my opportunity. Sarah was having Sunday dinner at our parents' house, without James, who was on a business trip. She'd left her phone on the kitchen counter while helping Mom with dessert. I knew her passwords. She'd always been careless about security, leaving sticky notes with her login information scattered around her desk at our parents' house. It took less than a minute to get into her phone. And there it was, months of messages with someone named Mike. Hundreds of texts, dozens of photos that would make James's blood boil. "God, Jay is so boring," one message read. "All he talks about is work and investments. At least he's loaded. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, baby," another said. "Jay's credit card is buying us a nice hotel room." My hands shook as I forwarded everything to my email, the messages, the photos, the hotel receipts. I even found Mike's address in their chat history. They weren't even trying to be careful. Getting the video evidence was almost too easy. Mike's house was in a quiet suburban neighborhood, perfect for discreet surveillance. I spent a few evenings parked across the street in a rental car, my phone camera ready. Sarah wasn't exactly subtle about her afternoon visits. She'd pull up in the Mercedes James had bought her, practically skipping to Mike's front door. Their passionate embraces on the doorstep gave me all the footage I needed. "Baby, I missed you," she'd coo loud enough for my phone's microphone to pick up. "James is so boring compared to you." I collected 3 weeks' worth of videos. Sarah and Mike making out against his car. Sarah sneaking out of his house at odd hours. The two of them laughing over what looked like expensive champagne on his patio, probably paid for with James's credit card. Then came the engagement party. Sarah insisted on having it at our parents' house. "It's more intimate," she'd said, though really she just wanted to show off to the whole family. James had proposed with a ring twice the size of the one he'd given me. The house was packed with relatives, friends, and James's entire family. Sarah held court in the living room, showing off her ring to anyone who'd look. Mom and Dad beamed with pride, while James's parents kept commenting on what a perfect couple they made. "I'd like to make a toast," I announced, standing up during a lull in the conversation. All eyes turned to me. Sarah shot me that superior look I'd grown so used to. The same look she'd given me 2 years ago, when she'd stolen my fiance. Poor thing, probably thought I was about to give some gracious speech about being happy for them. "I have something to share with everyone," I continued, connecting my phone to the TV. "A little engagement present, you might say." The first text messages appeared on the screen. Sarah's face went white. "What is this?" James stood up, squinting at the messages. "Oh, just some conversations between your fiancé and her boyfriend Mike," I said calmly. "There's quite a lot of them. They particularly enjoy discussing how boring you are, James. But hey, at least you're rich, right?" That's not," Sarah stammered. "And here's some video evidence, in case anyone has doubts." I played the clips one by one. Sarah and Mike kissing. Sarah leaving his house at midnight. Sarah laughing about James while sipping expensive wine. The room erupted into chaos. James was on his feet, roaring at Sarah. His parents were shouting about disgrace and scandal. Our relatives were whispering and pointing. "You crazy bastard," Sarah screamed at me. "How could you do this?" "Funny," I replied. "That's exactly what I wanted to ask you 2 years ago." Mom collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. Dad just stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. I didn't stick around for the aftermath. I gathered my things, walked to my car, and drove home in perfect silence. Inside my apartment, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my balcony, watching the city lights twinkle. For the first time in 2 years, I felt completely at peace. My phone rang at 7 a.m. the next morning. Mom's name flashed on the screen. "How could you humiliate your sister like that?" she screamed, before I could even say hello. "James called off the engagement. She's devastated. You need to fix this right now." "Fix what exactly?" I asked calmly. "The fact that she cheated?" The fact that she got caught? Or maybe you want me to fix the fact that she's finally facing consequences for her actions? She's your sister. Dad's voice came on the line. They had me on speaker. Family protects family. You will fix this, or we'll. I cut him off. Or you'll what? Take her side again? Go ahead. I'm used to it. I hung up and blocked their numbers. I needed coffee before dealing with any more family drama. But I hadn't even finished my first cup when someone started pounding on my apartment door. Open up, you damned bastard. Sarah's voice echoed through the hallway. I took my time walking to the door, unlocked it, and stepped back as she burst in. You ruined everything, she screamed, mascara running down her face. You ruined my life. Karma's a bitch, isn't it? I took another sip of coffee. I'm going to make you pay for this. She grabbed a framed photo from my wall and threw it at me. I dodged it easily. Like you made me pay 2 years ago? I asked quietly. When you fabricated evidence of me cheating? When you destroyed my relationship? When you took James for yourself? She froze, realization dawning on her face. You planned this. All of it. The whole time. 2 years, I confirmed. 2 years of watching and waiting. 2 years of playing the forgiving sister. 2 years of knowing that sooner or later, you'd show your true colors. You're insane, she whispered. No, Sarah, I'm patient. And unlike you, I only needed real evidence to get my revenge. She ran from my apartment like she'd seen a ghost. The weeks that followed were a parade of guilt-tripping messages from my parents. Sarah had lost her job due to emotional distress. She wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping. She'd moved back home and spent her days crying in her old bedroom. You've destroyed your sister, Mom texted. Are you happy now? I didn't respond. What was there to say? Dad tried a different approach. If you don't make this right, you're out of the will. Is that what you want? I finally replied to that one. Do whatever you want with your money. I've already got what I wanted, the truth. They didn't like that answer much. But for the first time in my life, I didn't care what they thought about me. While my personal life had been a soap opera, my career was soaring. Morrison Financial promoted me to senior director, complete with a corner office and a substantial raise. Sarah, meanwhile, hit rock bottom. After losing her marketing job, she moved back in with our parents. That's when the drinking started, wine with breakfast, vodka for lunch, whatever she could get her hands on. It was during one of her drunken episodes that the truth finally came out. Mom told me about it later, how Sarah had been sprawled on the couch, halfway through a bottle of wine, when she started rambling. I showed him those pictures she'd slurred. Made them all up, found some girl who looked like Amanda, got someone to help me fake the texts. She didn't deserve him anyway. I deserved him more. Mom and Dad sat there in stunned silence as their perfect younger daughter continued her drunken confession, spilling every detail about how she'd orchestrated my downfall. 2 years of lies came crashing down in one wine-soaked evening. Dad called me the next day. His voice was thick with emotion. Amanda, we need to talk. Can you come over? I found them both in the living room, looking like they'd aged 10 years overnight. Mom couldn't even look me in the eye. We were wrong, Dad said simply. About everything. We've been wrong for a very long time. Mom burst into tears. How could we not have seen it? How could we have been so blind? We failed you, Dad continued. Not just about James, but your whole life. We always favored Sarah, always made excuses for her. We let her get away with destroying your happiness, because we couldn't believe she was capable of such cruelty. It was the apology I'd waited my whole life to hear. But instead of feeling triumphant, I just felt tired. Dad cleared his throat. I'd been thinking, maybe we should try family therapy. The three of us. To work through everything. So we did. Every Tuesday evening, we sat in Dr. Marshall's office, unpacking decades of favoritism, resentment, and misplaced trust. It wasn't easy, there were tears, shouting matches, weeks of awkward silence. But slowly, gradually, things began to change. As for Sarah, my parents finally did what they should have done years ago, they cut her off. They gave her enough money for a security deposit and first month's rent on an apartment, telling her she could come back when she got help and showed genuine remorse for her actions. Last I heard, she's working as a receptionist somewhere downtown and living in a studio apartment. She sends mom and dad messages sometimes, but they're staying firm on their boundaries. James reached out eventually. My parents had told him everything, Sarah's confession, the years of manipulation, all of it. He asked to meet for coffee. I should have believed you, he said, looking older and tired. I should have at least listened to your side. I know it's probably too late, but maybe we could try again? I studied his face, the face I'd once thought I'd wake up to every morning for the rest of my life. I felt nothing. No, I said gently. I forgive you, James. But I don't love you anymore. I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. These days, my life is quieter. I have dinner with mom and dad every Sunday. We're not perfect, there are still moments of tension, old habits that die hard. But we're trying, and that's more than we ever did before. I don't regret exposing Sarah. Some might call it revenge, but I call it justice. She made her choices, and now she's living with the consequences. As for me, I'm exactly where I want to be. My career is thriving, I have my own place, and for the first time in my life, I don't feel like I'm second best to anyone.
Hey everyone, I'm Lucia, a 40-year-old marketing exec trying to figure out this wild ride called a blended family. I'm divorced and remarried to Tom, and we've got a bit of a Brady Bunch situation going on. My biological daughter, Emma, is 16, and my stepdaughter, Lily, is 17. Let me tell you, it's been a roller coaster trying to bond with Lily. Hey Lily, want to go shopping this weekend? I asked, trying to find some common ground. No thanks, I'm good, she muttered, barely glancing up from her phone. Tom, ever the peacekeeper, just shrugged. Maybe next time, he said, doing his usual conflict avoidance routine. I sighed, wishing he'd back me up just once, but that's Tom for you. Despite the cold shoulder, I made a promise to Lily. I'll help you save up for that prom dress you've been eyeing. I told her. For a second, I thought I saw a flicker of interest in her eyes. Really? You do that? Lily asked, suspicion in her voice. Of course, that's what family does, I replied, hoping this could be a turning point for us. Enter my best friend Rachel, my rock in all this chaos. We met for coffee at our favorite spot downtown. Lucia, you're trying too hard, Rachel said, stirring her latte. Lily will come around eventually. I hope so, Rach. Sometimes I feel invisible in my own home, I admitted. Rachel squeezed my hand. Give it time, you're doing great. But then there's Karen, Tom's ex. Let's just say she isn't making things easier. One evening, I overheard a phone call between her and Lily. Remember, sweetie, you don't owe that woman anything. Karen's voice crackled through the speaker. I know, Mom, Lily replied, glancing at me as I passed by. Later that night, Lily confronted me in the kitchen. Mom says you're just trying to buy my love, she spat. That's not true, Lily, I said, feeling my heart sink. I just want us to be family. We're not family, she snapped. You're just the woman my dad married. To top it off, Lily's been hanging out with a new friend, Zoe. I overheard them in her room one day. Your stepmom's such a try-hard, Zoe sneered. You should totally milk this prom dress thing. Lily's laugh cut through me like a knife. Yeah, maybe I will. It's not like she actually cares about me anyway. That night, I couldn't sleep. Their words kept replaying in my mind. The next morning, I decided to check on the prom dress fund I'd been saving for Lily. As I counted the money, my stomach dropped. There was way less than there should be. Tom, I called, my voice shaking. We need to talk about Lily's prom dress fund. He wandered into the room, looking confused. What about it? There's money missing. A lot, I said. Are you sure? Maybe you miscounted, he suggested, his face pale. I'm sure, and I think I know where it went. Just then, Lily bounced into the room, all smiles. Hey Dad, can I borrow the car tonight? Zoe and I want to go to the mall. I looked at Tom, silently pleading for his support, but he just smiled weakly. Sure, sweetie, just be back by curfew. Something inside me snapped. This couldn't go on. Something had to change and fast. Little did I know, the missing money was just the tip of the iceberg. Our family was about to face a storm we might not survive, and I was standing right in the eye of it. The next morning, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. I decided to confront Lily directly. Lily, can we talk? There's a lot of money missing from your prom dress fund. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. What are you talking about? I haven't touched it. Then where did it go? Over $300 is missing. How should I know? Maybe you took it, Lily snapped. Before I could respond, Emma burst into the room, waving a piece of paper. Mom, I passed my driver's test. That's great, honey, I said, trying to smile despite the tension. So about that car we talked about. Emma continued, unaware of the brewing storm. Lily's head whipped around. Car? What car? Emma hesitated. Mom said if I passed, we might look into getting a used car. Lily's face turned red. Oh, I see how it is. Steal my prom money for precious Emma's car, huh? What? No. I protested. Lily, that's not what's happening here. Save it, she spat. I should have known you'd always choose her over me. The argument escalated quickly. Tom, hearing the commotion, rushed in. What's going on? He asked, bewildered. Your wife stole my prom money to buy Emma a car, Lily shouted. I turned to Tom, desperate. That's not true. Tell her, Tom, tell her I wouldn't do that. Tom looked between us, his face a mask of discomfort. Now let's all calm down. I'm sure there's an explanation. Are you kidding me? I was stunned he wasn't defending me. Tom, you know I wouldn't steal from Lily. I'm not saying you did, but nothing. You're supposed to have my back. As we argued, Lily stormed out, phone in hand. I later found out she called Karen, who wasted no time in stirring up even more trouble. The next day at school, Lily's friend Zoe cornered Emma in the hallway. Must be nice having a mom who steals for you, she sneered. What are you talking about? Emma asked, confused. Everyone knows your mom stole Lily's prom money to buy you a car. It's all over school. By the time I picked Emma up, the rumors had spread like wildfire. Parents whispered at pickup, casting me sidelong glances. At home, I tried to talk to Tom about the situation. This is getting out of hand. We need to present a united front, I said. Tom sighed. Maybe if you just replace the money. Replace it? I didn't take it in the first place. I was stunned by his suggestion. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt completely alone. My stepdaughter hated me, my husband didn't trust me, and my reputation was crumbling. How had everything gone so wrong so quickly? My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Asterisk heard the rumors. You okay? Want to talk? Asterisk. I stared at the message, tears welling up. At least someone was on my side. But as I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. Little did I know, the worst was yet to come. I couldn't just sit back and let these accusations destroy my life. It was time to do some digging. I started by scrolling through Lily's social media, and something caught my eye. Rachel, look at this, I said, showing her my phone. Lily had posted a selfie wearing a designer jacket that definitely wasn't in her closet before. Rachel squinted at the screen. That looks expensive. You think? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. We hit the mall, asking around at the stores Lily frequented. At a high-end boutique, a saleswoman remembered her. Oh yeah, that girl was in here last week. Dropped quite a bit of cash. Any chance you have security footage? I asked. The manager was hesitant, but eventually let us view it. And there it was, Lily, clear as day, buying the jacket with a wad of cash. Bingo, Rachel whispered. Back at home, I overheard Lily on the phone in her room. Zoe, chill. They'll never figure it out. My stepmom's taking all the heat. I felt my blood boil, but I forced myself to keep listening. Mom's totally on board, Lily continued. She hates Lucia anyway. It's perfect. So Karen was in on it too. I shouldn't have been surprised, but it still hurt. I dug deeper, tracking Lily's movements through credit card statements and eyewitness accounts. Designer clothes, parties, even a secret trip to a concert. It all added up. Just as I was putting the pieces together, Tom came home looking shell-shocked. The company's in trouble, he said, collapsing onto the couch. We might have to file for bankruptcy. Great, more stress. Tom, we need to talk about Lily, I started. He held up a hand. Not now, Lucia. I can't deal with that on top of everything else. I bit my tongue, frustrated. Fine, if he wouldn't listen, I handle this myself. I compiled all the evidence, receipts, footage, screenshots. It was time to confront Lily and clear my name once and for all. As I stood outside her door, evidence in hand, I took a deep breath. This was it, the moment of truth. I raised my hand to knock, steadying myself for the confrontation. Lily, we need to talk. Now. She opened the door, eyeing me suspiciously. What do you want? I walked in and spread the evidence on her bed. Receipts, photos, security footage. I know what you did, Lily, all of it. Her face paled, but she tried to bluff. I don't know what you're talking about. Cut the act. I have proof. You spent the prom money on clothes and parties, and you framed me. Lily's facade crumbled. You weren't supposed to find out. It's not fair. Emma gets everything. Tom walked in, drawn by the commotion. What's going on here? He asked, looking between us. I turned to him, my voice steady. Lily stole the money and framed me, and Karen helped her do it. Tom's face hardened as he looked over the evidence. Is this true, Lily? Lily burst into tears. Dad, I didn't mean for it to go this far. For the first time, Tom stood firm. I can't believe this. Lucia, I'm so sorry I doubted you. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was the school principal, Mrs. Thompson. I thought you should know, she said Zoe confessed to spreading false rumors about you. She's facing suspension. As word spread, Lily's social life imploded. Her friends began to distance themselves, and her reputation tanked overnight. The next day, Karen showed up at our door, fuming. What have you done to my daughter? She demanded. I stood my ground. No, Karen, what have you done? You helped Lily lie and steal. Tom stepped in, his voice firm. Karen, we need to reassess the custody arrangement. This can't continue. Karen sputtered, you can't do that. Watch us, Tom replied, shutting the door in her face. Amid the family chaos, Tom's business troubles worsened. Late one night, I found him slumped over financial papers in his office. Tom, I said softly, let me help. I have experience with marketing strategies that could turn things around. He looked up, his eyes red from lack of sleep. You do that, after everything. We spent nights brainstorming, growing closer as we fought to save the business. It was tough, but we were in it together. Emma stepped up too, surprising us all. Dad, Mom, she said one evening, I don't need a car. Let's use that money to help the business instead. Tom and I exchanged proud glances. Our daughter was growing up. Slowly, things began to improve. Tom's company started showing signs of recovery, and my reputation in the community was restored as the truth came out. 6 months later, we sat as a family, minus Lily, who was now living with Karen full-time. Tom glanced at his phone and said quietly, I got an email from Lily. She's struggling. Karen's not coping well with the consequences. I sighed, feeling conflicted. It's hard, but she needs to learn from this. Emma nodded, her face serious. Maybe one day she'll realize what she lost. The doorbell rang. It was Rachel, bringing over dinner, as she'd started doing every Friday night. Hey, warrior woman, she greeted me with a hug. How's everyone doing? As we all sat down to eat, the conversation flowed easily and laughter filled the room, something that had been missing for too long. I caught Tom's eye across the table, and he smiled, a warm, genuine smile that reached his eyes. In that moment, I realized that sometimes family is what you make it, and we'd made ours strong enough to weather any storm. Sure, there were still challenges ahead. Lily's journey wasn't over, and neither was ours. But for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. We'd face the worst and come out the other side, not unscathed, but unbroken. As Rachel raised her glass in a toast, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. To family, she said. To family, we echoed. I knew whatever came next, we'd face it together. Now I have a question for you. If you were Lucia, would you consider giving Lily a second chance? Or do you believe that some betrayals are too deep to forgive, even when it comes to family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective could help others dealing with complex family dynamics. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Hi, I'm Sarah. Growing up, Grandma Ellie wasn't just a grandmother. She was a mentor, a confidant, and the heart of our family. Her home was the center of every gathering, from Thanksgiving dinners to summer barbecues. When she passed away last month, it felt like the core of our family had been torn apart. The morning of her funeral was heavy with mist, as if the sky itself mourned with us. Our large family, uncles, aunts, cousins, gathered at the old church, filling the air with whispered conversations and the occasional quiet sob. The scent of lilies, Grandma's favorite flower, hung in the air. I clutched the last letter she wrote me, her gold locket resting against my neck, a piece from the collection she left me in her will. Grandma had made her intentions clear. Most of her estate, including valuable jewelry and a significant sum of money, was to go to me. She believed in my dreams of starting a nonprofit for children's literacy, a passion we both shared. But as the eulogy began, I felt the weight of Aunt Linda's gaze. Aunt Linda, my father's younger sister, was known for her charm that often veered into manipulation. She could make you uneasy with just a look. After the service, as we made our way to the gravesite, she cornered me near the old oak tree that overlooked Grandma's resting place. "Sarah, darling," she began, her voice sickly sweet. "You know how hard things have been for my kids lately. Surely you don't need all of Grandma's gifts." Her words hung in the air, a thinly veiled demand disguised as concern. I tightened my grip on Grandma's letter, feeling the edges bite into my palms. "Aunt Linda," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Grandma knew what she was doing when she wrote her will. It's not just about the money or the jewelry, it's about her trust in me to carry on her legacy." "Oh, come now," Aunt Linda pressed, her eyes flicking to the nearby mourners to ensure no one overheard. "Be reasonable. My kids could use a little help, and it's not like you're struggling." Her audacity made my heart race. I knew better than to argue with her here, in the middle of the funeral. Drama was her fuel. "Aunt Linda, this isn't the time or place. We can talk later if we must," I replied sharply. She flashed a tight smile that never reached her eyes and patted my shoulder, a bit too forcefully. "Of course, darling. We'll talk later," she said before slipping back into the crowd. As I watched her walk away, the reality of what I was facing sank in. This wasn't just about an inheritance, it was about respecting Grandma Ellie's wishes, her values, her legacy. And I knew this was just the beginning. The battle lines had been drawn, not just over family assets, but over the principles Grandma had instilled in me. Later, Aunt Linda returned to the subject, her tone more insistent. "You know my kids have had it rough this year. College is expensive, and with the economy." "Aunt Linda," I interrupted, Grandma made her wishes clear. This isn't just about money. It's about continuing what she believed in. "But Sarah, think about the family. You were always her favorite. You got her time, her stories. My kids, your cousins, they need this. It's what she would have wanted." "With all due respect," I said firmly, "it's not about what you think Grandma would have wanted. It's about what she actually said and wrote down. This isn't a suggestion, it's her will." She huffed, her frustration palpable. "It's so like you to cling to technicalities. You make plenty from your job, don't you? Why hold on to something that could change your cousins' lives?" "Aunt Linda, helping family doesn't mean disregarding Grandma's final decisions. I can't just ignore her will, legally or morally." "Oh, come now, Sarah. Morals and legalities? This is family. We help each other. You could help, and you're choosing not to. That's on you." "Aunt Linda, helping doesn't mean handing over everything Grandma left me. You're twisting her intentions, and we both know it. And what will you do with it all? Start some charity and throw money at problems? Is that better than helping your own blood?" "Yes," I answered firmly. "If that's what Grandma wanted, then yes. It's about making a real difference the way she intended." "Alienating your family is a real difference you aim for?" She shot back. "You're being selfish, Sarah." "Well, that's not what Grandma stood for," I said, my patience wearing thin. "Aunt Linda, this isn't about what you think is right. It's about respecting Grandma's wishes. She was very clear about what she wanted to happen with her estate." Aunt Linda's lips curled into a sneer. "We'll see just how clear everyone else thinks she was when they hear about how you're hoarding her legacy. Family should come first, Sarah, not some lofty ideals or legal documents." I took a deep breath. "If you want to discuss this further, we can involve the lawyers." I'm sure they'll clarify what clear means in terms of a legally binding will. Lawyers? Is that a threat? Aunt Linda's voice was sharp now, her tone biting. You're willing to tear this family apart over some jewels and cash. It's not a threat, Aunt Linda. It's about doing what's right, I replied, trying to stay calm. This isn't about tearing anyone apart. It's about following through with responsibility. And if that means involving lawyers to keep peace and respect Grandma's wishes, so be it. Her eyes narrowed. Well, Sarah, remember that actions have consequences. I hope you're ready for them. As do words, Aunt Linda. I'll do what needs to be done. I turned to walk away, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air, but my resolve to honor Grandma's wishes only solidified. The battle lines had been drawn, not in the shifting sands of family drama, but in the solid ground of Grandma's legacy. As I moved through the crowd, I heard a voice behind me. I heard everything, Sarah. I turned to see my cousin Mike standing there. I didn't mean for you to. No need to explain, Mike interrupted. Aunt Linda's been pulling this kind of stuff for years. You're just the latest. Got a minute to talk? Sure, I nodded. Several of us have had run-ins with her, Mike continued. Remember when Uncle Joe passed away and there was all that drama over his car collection? Turned out Aunt Linda promised her son his Mustang, even though it was meant to go to charity. I blinked, surprised. I had no idea it went that far. Mike nodded grimly. That's just the tip of the iceberg. You standing up to her. It's about time someone did. I just want to respect Grandma's wishes, I said. But Aunt Linda's making this personal, and it's splitting the family. You're not alone in this, Sarah, Mike reassured me. We can gather stories, put everything together, and show the family what's really been going on behind those sweet talks of hers. I hesitated, but then agreed. That sounds like a plan, but we need to be careful. We can't just throw accusations without proof. Agreed. I'll talk to a few people who've dealt with her before. We'll meet up later and compile everything. Thanks, Mike. This isn't just for me, it's for Grandma. Later that day, our cousin Jenna joined the conversation. I heard what Aunt Linda's trying to pull. And it's just not right, she said. She did something similar when Grandpa was in the hospital, trying to get him to change his will in her favor. It was disgusting. Wow, Jenna, I had no idea. Could you write that down? Any details you have would help. Absolutely. I'll send you everything tonight. We can't let her get away with this again. Thank you, I said, feeling a growing sense of determination. Here's the plan. We gather all the evidence we can, compile it into a clear presentation, and at the next family gathering, we lay it all out. Transparently, calmly, but firmly. We show everyone Aunt Linda's pattern of manipulation. Do we confront her in front of everyone? Mike asked. It has to be public, I answered. Otherwise, she'll twist it. But we keep it factual, no personal attacks. Just the truth, laid bare for everyone to see. If we're united in this, she'll have to face reality. It's going to be intense, Jenna said, but you're right, it's the only way. Thanks for standing with me, I said, relieved. This isn't just about the inheritance, it's about integrity and honoring Grandma's memory the right way. We're with you, Sarah, Mike replied. Let's get to work. As the meeting ended, I felt a mixture of apprehension and relief. Taking down Aunt Linda's facade wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary. Armed with the truth and the support of my family, I was ready to defend Grandma's legacy, no matter what it took. A few weeks later, the family gathered again. I stood before them, feeling the weight of what was about to happen. Everyone, thank you for coming together tonight. There's something important we need to address as a family. Aunt Linda's voice cut through the room. What's this about, Sarah? It's about our family's future and honoring Grandma's true wishes, I said, keeping my voice steady. Over the past few weeks, you've questioned the terms of Grandma's will, suggesting it should benefit your children more. But that's not the whole story, is it? Aunt Linda stiffened. I'm not sure what you're implying, but I've always had this family's best interests at heart. That's not the truth, I said firmly. You've manipulated family situations for your own gain. Remember Uncle Joe's car collection, or when you tried to change Grandpa's will? We have evidence, Aunt Linda. Testimonies from family members, documents you tampered with. It's all here. This is ridiculous, Aunt Linda snapped. You're attacking me in front of everyone based on rumors. Not rumors, I replied, holding up papers. Facts. Here's an email from Janet about the hospital incident. And here's a statement from Mike about the car collection. It's not just one or two incidents, Aunt Linda. It's a pattern. She looked around, incredulous. You all believe this. My own family turning against me based on Sarah's word. So it's not just Sarah's word, Mike chimed in, stepping forward. I was there, Linda. I saw the documents you manipulated. Linda's eyes darted between us, her voice rising. Mike, why bring up old stories now? We should be looking out for each other, not dredging up the past. Looking out for each other is exactly why we're doing this, Linda, I replied. We can't ignore the truth. Linda crossed her arms, her tone defensive. I've always done everything for this family. You're just trying to make me the villain because I spoke up. No one's making you a villain, Linda, Mike said gently. You chose your actions. All we're doing is bringing them to light. She scoffed. So what now? You're going to kick me out of the family? We don't want that, I said firmly. But we do want accountability. You need to acknowledge what you've done and why it's wrong. Until then, it's best if you step back from family decisions. This is unbelievable, Linda muttered, shaking her head. I'm being ostracized by my own family. It's not ostracization, Linda, it's consequence, I explained. You're welcome back once there's genuine acknowledgement and change. Linda's face hardened. Fine. If that's how you all feel, I'll step back. But remember, families are supposed to forgive. Forgiveness comes with change, Linda. We hope to see that from you. As Linda stormed out, the room was left heavy with mixed emotions. Mike sighed and turned to me. Thank you, Sarah, for standing up like that. It couldn't have been easy. It wasn't, I admitted, feeling the weight lift, but it was necessary. Grandma deserved that much. Looking at the family, I continued. Going forward, I'll be using part of my inheritance to start a charity fund in Grandma's name. It'll support family members in real need, but with strict oversight to ensure it's used as she intended. That's a beautiful way to honor her, Jenna said softly. She would have been proud. As the evening wound down, I felt a deep sense of relief and closure. Standing up for Grandma's legacy wasn't just about confronting Aunt Linda. It was about preserving the values Grandma had instilled in us. Integrity, honesty, and respect for each other's wishes would be the true legacy I carry forward. Through the charity, Grandma's generosity would continue, not just in memory, but in action, helping others as she had always done. This was the real way to honor her spirit. Now that we've reached the end of the story, here's a question for you all. If you were in Sarah's position, how would you handle a family member who manipulates situations for their own benefit? Is public confrontation the best approach, or would you handle it differently? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed the story and subscribe for more. Hey, I'm Sarah, 28, thriving in my marketing career, but my personal life? A total mess. It all goes back to when I was a kid. My dad, Jack, walked out when I was 5, leaving my mom, Linda, to raise me on her own. Fast forward to when I was 12, enter Robert, my stepdad. He tried to take on the dad role. But let's be real, it never quite clicked. Things got complicated when I turned 18. Jack reappeared, and we've been close ever since, which drives my mom crazy. She insists Robert is my real dad, always saying things like, Sarah, honey, Robert's been more of a father to you than Jack ever was. Her voice always drips with fake sweetness. I just roll my eyes and say, Mom, Jack is my dad. Robert's great, but he's not my father. We've had this argument a million times. But this Thanksgiving, oh boy, Linda took things to a whole new level. I was chilling at home when I got a text from her. Thanksgiving at our place. Can't wait to see you, sweetie. I smiled, hoping for a drama-free holiday for once. Then came the follow-up. Oh, and Sarah, it would mean so much to Robert if you called him Dad this year. He's earned it, don't you think? I couldn't believe it. Was she serious? I quickly replied, Mom, we've been over this. I'm not calling Robert Dad. It's not happening. Her response came back instantly. Why are you so stubborn? After everything Robert's done for you. My blood pressure spiked. It's not about what Robert's done. It's about respecting my relationship with Jack. He's my dad. Period. Jack left us, Sarah. Robert stayed. Think about that. I threw my phone onto the couch, fuming. Why couldn't she understand? It's not like I was trying to hurt Robert. He's a good guy, but he's not my dad. And Jack? Yeah, he messed up, but he's been trying. Doesn't that count for something? I paced around, trying to calm down. This was supposed to be a simple Thanksgiving dinner, not some twisted loyalty test. Staring at the messages on my phone, I knew this wasn't over. Linda wasn't going to drop it, and neither was I. Little did I know, this was just the beginning. Thanksgiving was about to turn into a battleground. When I pulled up to Linda and Robert's house, my stomach was in knots. This wasn't going to be pretty, but it had to be done. I rang the doorbell, taking a deep breath. Sarah, honey, come in, come in. Linda greeted me with a tight smile as she ushered me inside. Robert was lounging in his favorite chair, giving me a nod without saying a word. Typical. So about Thanksgiving, I started, trying to ease into it. Oh yes, Linda clasped her hands together. It's going to be wonderful. Everyone's so excited to see you. And Robert's really looking forward to you calling him Dad. I felt my jaw tighten. Yeah, about that. I'm not doing it, Mom. I can't. The room seemed to chill instantly. Linda's smile disappeared. What do you mean you can't? It's just a word, Sarah. It's not just a word, and you know it. Jack is my dad. Robert is my stepdad, and I respect him, but I'm not going to pretend he's someone he's not. Robert shifted uncomfortably while Linda's eyes narrowed. After everything Robert's done for you, this is how you repay him? By throwing Jack in our faces? I'm not throwing anything in anyone's face. I'm just being honest about who my family is. Family? Linda scoffed. Jack walked out on us. Robert has been here every single day. And I appreciate that. I do. But it doesn't change the fact that Jack is my father. He's trying, Mom. You can't just erase him. He doesn't deserve to be called your father, Linda practically shouted. That's not for you to decide. I shot back. Finally, Robert spoke. Sarah, your mother and I just want what's best for the family. Is it really so hard to call me Dad? I turned to him, trying to keep my cool. Robert, I respect you. I really do. But you're not my dad. I can't just erase Jack to make you feel better. Linda threw her hands up. Unbelievable. After everything we've done for you. Ungrateful. I cut her off. Are you kidding me? I've bent over backwards trying to make everyone happy. But I'm not going to lie about who I am or where I came from. Linda's voice turned icy. Fine, maybe you shouldn't come to Thanksgiving at all. It felt like a slap across the face. What? You heard me. If you can't respect this family enough to do this one simple thing, then maybe you don't belong here for the holidays. I looked at Robert, hoping he'd step in, say something, but he just sat there in silence as usual. You're really going to uninvite me from Thanksgiving because I won't pretend Robert is my biological father. Linda's voice was cold and firm. It's your choice, Sarah. Call Robert Dad and be part of this family, or don't bother showing up. I stood there stunned. I couldn't believe what was happening. You know what? Fine. If that's how it's going to be, I won't come. I'm not going to let you manipulate me. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Linda's voice followed me. Sarah, don't you dare walk out that door. I paused, my hand on the doorknob. Without turning around, I replied, watch me. And with that, I left. As I drove home, my mind raced. How did things get so messed up? All I wanted was to be honest about my family, and now I was banned from Thanksgiving. But I wasn't about to back down. If Linda and Robert wanted to play hardball, they were about to learn that I could give just as good as I got. The day after that blowout, I met up with my best friend, Emma, and my boyfriend, Michael, at our favorite coffee shop. I needed to vent, badly. She did what? Emma nearly spilled her latte. Yep. Uninvited me from Thanksgiving unless I call Robert Dad. Michael shook his head. That's messed up, Sarah. Your mom's really crossing a line here. Tell me about it, I sighed. I just don't get why she can't accept that Jack is part of my life. Emma leaned in. Have you told Jack about this? Not yet. I'm going to call him later. I don't know, embarrassed, I guess. Don't be, Michael squeezed my hand. This isn't your fault. I nodded, fighting back tears. Thanks, guys. I don't know what I'd do without you. Later that day, I called Jack, my heart pounding as I filled him in on everything. Oh, kiddo, he sighed. I'm so sorry you're going through this. It's not your fault, Dad. I wish Mom could understand. I know. But Sarah, I'm proud of you for standing your ground. You're not doing anything wrong by acknowledging both parts of your family. His words meant more than he knew. Thanks, Dad, that really means a lot. A few days passed, and I was starting to feel a little better. Then my half-sister Megan called. Sarah, I need to tell you something. Mom's been talking to the whole family about you. My stomach dropped. What is she saying? She's telling everyone you're being rebellious and disrespectful. She's making herself out to be the victim. I felt like I'd been punched. Are you serious? Yeah, I'm sorry, Sarah. I thought you should know. After hanging up, I paced my apartment, fuming. This was the last straw. I called Emma, Michael, and Jack. Guys, I need your help. We're going to expose Linda's manipulation. Emma was all in. What's the plan, boss? We're going to gather evidence. Texts, emails, recorded calls, anything that shows how Linda's been twisting things. Michael chimed in. I can help compile everything into a presentation. Perfect. And Dad, if you're okay with it, I'd like to include some of our correspondence. Show everyone how you've been trying to be part of my life. Whatever you need, Sarah. I'm here for you. Over the next few days, we gathered everything. Emma dug up old texts where Linda had manipulated situations. Michael found emails where she tried to guilt-trip me, and Jack provided years of letters and photos showing his efforts to stay in my life. As we put it all together, I felt a mix of sadness and determination. I hated that it had come to this, but I couldn't let Linda's lies go on. The night before Thanksgiving, we finalized the plan. Okay, so we'll show up unannounced, I repeated. Michael, you'll have the presentation ready on your tablet. Emma, you'll handle crowd control if things get messy. And Dad, just be there. Okay. They all nodded, looking as nervous as I felt. Sarah, are you sure about this? Jack asked gently. I took a deep breath. Yeah, I'm sure. It's time everyone knew the truth. Thanksgiving Day arrived, and my heart pounded as we pulled up to Linda and Robert's house. Jack, Emma, and Michael were with me, all looking as anxious as I felt. You ready for this, kiddo? Jack asked, squeezing my hand. I took a deep breath, as ready as I'll ever be. We walked up to the door, and I rang the bell. Aunt Karen answered, her eyes widening in surprise. Sarah, we thought you weren't coming. Change of plans, I said, pushing past her into the house. The living room fell silent as we entered. Linda's face shifted from shock to anger in seconds. What are you doing here? And with him? She glared at Jack. I stood tall, facing the room full of confused relatives. I'm here to set the record straight. Robert stood up, looking uncomfortable. Sarah, this isn't the time or place. Actually, it's exactly the time and place. I cut him off. You've all been lied to, and it stops now. Michael set up his tablet, connecting it to the TV, while Emma stood by the door, making sure no one left. What's going on? Uncle Steve asked, looking bewildered. I took a deep breath. For years, Linda has been manipulating and lying to all of you about me, about Jack, and about our family. Today, you're going to see the truth. Michael started the presentation. Text messages popped up on the screen, showing Linda's guilt-tripping and manipulation. If you really love this family, you'd do as I say, I read aloud. That's what she texted me last month when I refused to pretend Robert was my only father. Gasps filled the room. Aunt Susan spoke up. Linda, is this true? Linda tried to defend herself. It's taken out of context. Sarah's twisting things. Am I? I interrupted. Let's keep going. More evidence appeared, emails, recorded phone calls, showing Linda's pattern of emotional abuse. And here, I said, my voice shaking, are the letters and photos Jack sent me over the years, the ones Linda told you didn't exist. Jack stepped forward. I've been trying to be part of Sarah's life since she turned 18. Linda has blocked me at every turn. The room erupted. Megan stood up, tears in her eyes. It's true, I've seen Mom do this for years. Linda frantically tried to regain control. You can't believe this. Robert, tell them. But Robert just sat there, shell-shocked, unable to defend her. I turned to face my relatives. I'm not here to ask you to choose sides. I'm here because I'm done being manipulated and lied about. Family isn't about blood or titles. It's about love and respect. Uncle Steve stood up, looking remorseful. I'm so sorry, Sarah. We had no idea. Aunt Karen nodded, turning to Linda. How could you do this? Linda, red-faced, stammered. I was just trying to protect our family. Jack left us, and I've regretted it every day. Jack spoke quietly but firmly. I've been trying to make amends, and Sarah was kind enough to give me that chance. I felt tears welling up as I addressed the room. I love all parts of my family, Jack, Robert, all of you, but I won't be forced to deny any part of who I am or where I come from. Megan came over and hugged me. I'm with you, sis. One by one, relatives approached me, offering apologies and support. Linda and Robert remained on the couch, looking lost as the gathering wound down. Aunt Susan came over before we left. We're having a Christmas get-together next month. We'd love for you to come and bring Jack, if you'd like. I smiled through my tears. I'd love that. Thank you. As we walked out of the house, I felt lighter than I had in years. Jack looked at me, his eyes shining with pride. You're the bravest person I know, kiddo. In the weeks that followed, I received calls and messages from relatives apologizing and wanting to reconnect. I even began planning a holiday gathering of my own, inviting Jack, Megan, and the family members who had stood by me. As for Linda and Robert, I decided to keep my distance for now. Maybe one day we could rebuild, but for the time being, I needed space to heal. And now I want to hear from you. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have exposed your family's lies and manipulation at Thanksgiving, or kept the peace to avoid confrontation? There's no easy answer when it comes to toxic family dynamics, and sometimes standing up for yourself means rocking the boat. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear your take on this situation. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more like it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.